Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. It's been a couple of weeks since my last video. I was hoping to finish the book that I'm here to review on Sunday, which was yesterday, but I didn't quite finish. I was hosting Sunday lunch for me, my mum and dad, who I'm in a social bubble with at the moment, yeah, because I was hosting that and doing this, that and the other, I didn't quite finish it. So I decided to wait until after work today to finish reading the book, which I have just done. So I'm here to review it. So I am filming this on Monday, but I'm not going to be able to upload it until tomorrow after work. So, so you'll be seeing this on Tuesday, but I'm filming this on Monday. Okay, so the book I am here to review is Cassandra Clare's Lord of Shadows, the second of the Dark Artifices trilogy. And now I read the first one earlier this year, Lady Midnight, which I had gotten as a Christmas present. I think it was Christmas present last year from my sister. And this year from my sister, I got Lord of Shadows for my birthday. And so along with Scythe, which I'm going to be reading 2 books away from where I am right now, because it's actually the last book I've got allocated to read this year. If I can squeeze it into here, if not, it'll be the first of 2021. And yeah, so my sister got me this for my birthday this year, and I'm finally getting around to reading it. Now, Lady Midnight was an interesting beginning of a trilogy. In case you aren't aware, I have gone through pretty much all of Cassandra Clare's books. There are a few after the point where I am now, which I haven't read yet because I am at the point where I am now. So, but all the ones before Lord of Shadows, I have read. The, you know, the Mortal Instruments series, we've got the prequels set in Victorian times with the London Institute. We've got this trilogy. There are single books for the Bane Chronicles and Tales of Shadowhunter Academy. I've gone through all of them. So at the point where I am reading, I am completely up to date, as it were, with the world of Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter world. Okay, so I went into reading Lady Midnight earlier this year, bit unsure where this is going to go, because it's set 5 years after the Mortal Instruments series. It's then following Emma, who got introduced in the final Mortal Instruments book, and yeah, she's our main protagonist, and following her life at the Los Angeles Institute. Okay, rather than the New York Institute where the Mortal Instruments series is set. And because of Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, had this kind of adult shift to it. I was like, oh, okay, let's see how we go with this. And I did enjoy Lady Midnight. It had an interesting way of establishing itself, and the final chapter was very, very good. I was like, oh, okay. She's starting to bring it in. It's starting to creep in. So let's see how this second book goes. And the second book, the first half of the second book, which is this one, Lord of Shadows, did follow that kind of sinister undertone of the final chapter of Lady Midnight. But it didn't grasp me like I thought it would do. And the reason why, I think, is because I was getting frustrated. It's not frustration of, you know, aspects to do with the writing or anything like that, because I like Cassandra's writing. I wouldn't have gotten through, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is like the 13th book of hers that I've read so far. So it's not her writing style that I've got issue with. What I had issue with was that it kind of felt like she's doing more of this adult elements and writing, which I was so happy about, but she was still clinging on to teenage tropes. And I was like, okay, I'm getting frustrated now. It was like, I actually commented to my sister as I was reading this, how many storms are in this book? Seriously, because it was like, There are storms when characters kiss. There are storms where they're arguing. There are storms where they run out and argue and kiss. There's storms when they're having sex. There's storms when there's various this, that, and the other happening. There's storms where the enemies meet. There's storms where, and it's just a bit like, oh my god, it kind of, am I watching, like, am I in a world where there's just storms every single day? I know that they're dramatic and everything, but it just kind of felt like, break that, please. And it didn't help that all of those scenes, everything was heightened to like level 200. I get that these are teenagers, I get that they're hormonal, I get that they're going through this, that and the other and trying to figure out who they love and all that lot. Believe me, I've been through 13 books at this point with these kind of things going on with various different other triangles and such, you know, throughout her world. I've loved them all, but at this point I'm like, do I really need to you know, read about how their bodies clash together in time with the thunder? This is thunderstorm like 15 so far in the book, and I'm like, oh my god, just either break the trope or just turn it down. Just turn it down to like level 100 instead of 200. If you're playing with this more adult world, adult elements, be more adult about certain things. That's all I'm saying. I still love you, Cassandra. I really love your books. I really love, you know, the worlds, your characters and everything. But just, please just tone it down a bit. And I feel like I'm going to get that in the final book because of the final chapter of this one. So the final chapter of this one, Cassandra did something that she has never, ever done in any of her other books. And it threw me for six. It really did. I was like, oh, holy Christ, you were going to end the book like that? Seriously? If I had gotten this when this was published, and I think it was about, I'm thinking like a year to 2 years between this book and the final book of the trilogy, I would have been like crazy. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you cannot do this to me, Cassandra. You cannot do this. Yeah, I would have been going crazy. Thinking when, you know, the final book. I mean, I don't have the final book of the trilogy. It is on my New Year's Amazon wishlist for 2021. So, but I might get it for Christmas. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But yeah, I very much feel like as soon as I get it, I want to start reading it. Because I feel like I am going to get that tone that I thought the second book was going to be in the third one. So remember how I said the first half of the book, it had that underlining tone that you got for the final chapter of the first one, which was great. And then suddenly it went really quite dark and sinister. And from that point on, that kind of dark and sinister was what I was hoping the entire book was going to be. And it wasn't. But the fact that it was like that in the final half when things really start stepping up, and especially that final chapter and what she did in that final chapter, I was like, all hell is breaking loose right now. And it was so charged. It was that whole having elements like the storms and everything heightened up to 200 and, you know, love scenes all that heightened up to 200. It felt like the final chapter was hyped up to 300. But it was appropriate for that chapter. I didn't feel it was necessarily appropriate for other chapters in between that gap, where we're constantly reminded that these are children. They range from the ages of about 2 to 15, 16, and then we've got various adults who we have met from previous books who get brought into this one as well. They have appeared in all of the trilogies apart, well, no, I was about to say apart from the Victorian England trilogy, but then technically we have had characters from that appearing in this one as well, so we scrapped that. And how can that possibly be? Read the books and you'll find out. it just, yeah, you've got the kids and then you've got the adults, but you are told throughout, like the Mortal Instrument books, throughout the first book, throughout this one, you are constantly reminded that these are children who have been through such horrific situations that they can't see the world as through the eyes of the children of their age. They are adults in children's bodies. So it's like, right, Cassandra, in that case then, thus, if you've got chapters where you've got crazy storms going on and arguments and love scenes and blah, 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 bring the tone down, bring it down to be the adult level that you are writing this story to be. And you will have so much more complexity, I think, to the characters and the chapters if you do that. If you keep on following these teenage tropes, it's just going to annoy me even more. And I know I'm just one individual, so I'm not the masses of readers who necessarily, you know, agree with what I'm saying. But I honest to God feel like she got it right with various characters in Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, especially like Simon. The end of Shadowhunter Academy with Simon absolutely ripped my heart out, and it was like, yes, that is it, that is what I want you to do, that is the emotion that I want you to have me feel, that is the depth that I want you to go into the souls of these characters you've got coming up in your future books. Stay there, go to that point, stay there, and have teenagers and such who are reading this book, or and older readers like myself, have us understand the world that you have written, understand the characters you have written in such a deep level. Allow that accessibility for teenagers as well. She has gone really quite deep about certain characters' lives that in this book, but only really the adults. She has gone deep with the kids as well, don't get me wrong, but she hasn't gone to that same level as she did with characters at the exact same age or maybe a year or two older in Tales of Shadowhunter Academy. And I'm like, just go there, just go right there, and you will have gotten a 5-star review from me. But she didn't. But because of the events that happened in the final half of the book and the final chapter, I am really, really excited for the final book. I really think it's going to be the depth of darkness that I wanted the whole of the second book to cover. I do want to say it was really lovely seeing characters again, especially like Clary and Jace and Alec and Magnus. I just love it when you have characters who you have met or known for years, especially if you've, you know, been reading as Cassandra has published these books. When you see them again after a long time and find out what they've been up to, it's seeing old friends again, and it's really lovely. It's really, really lovely. And Cassandra does write those instances of seeing each other so well. They felt like Alec and Magnus was more of a presence in this book, and I really liked that. I really appreciated that. And yeah, it was very, very well done. I just wish from a complexity and writing choice point of view that the teenage tropes were turned down. That there wasn't so much of a frantic energy throughout. But when it was needed, like the ending, she did great. Cassandra did really, really well. What else did I want to say? I'm trying to think now. Yeah, I thought the choices that various characters went through were very interested in this book. The whole thing about this trilogy in particular, or should I say, well, it is just this trilogy, not in particular, is that the inspiration came from an Edgar Allan Poe poem called Annabel Lee. And it's very interesting when you read the first book, because you don't quite understand what everything means, and it sort of is clear, but it's not everything. And it's just kind of like, so when it progressed and more information got through, I was like, oh god, okay. I was expecting someone to enter this, who, I'm not going to say who, because spoilers and all that lot, it is someone who you do encounter in this book. I'm going to say that, but I won't say exactly who it was. Who I thought, oh fuck, when they appear, shit's gonna go down. I just felt like this is not going to end well. And the book did end in a really horrific scene. But I honestly, I judged someone before I knew them, and then I got to know them, and I was like, oh, okay, right, okay, maybe I was wrong. And then the final chapter happens. Oh, Cassandra, oh, you are good. One thing, Cassandra is very, very good at writing her characters, and they are all very real, and they especially love sarcasm. She likes writing sarcastic characters, I will say that. This character wasn't. I was a bit like, but I've had this before, where I have been taken in by one of her characters, and I have suddenly discovered that they were bad, or, you know, something like that. And this particular character, I honest to God didn't know how they were going to react in any given minute, on any given page. And so I was like, oh, right, okay, I think I misjudged you. And then the final chapter happened, and it was like, oh, shit. Like, so, I think I can kind of guess what possibly might happen, but this is me pulling at strings here, and I mean like one little thing out with what is going to be an epic thing to finish this novel. So, and I'm talking like that much of that. So generally I don't know what the heck could happen. Anything could happen with Cassandra Clare's world. But I am excited going forward with this. I'm not going to do a reading because it's the second of a trilogy. I don't want to spoil anything. And also, you know, I might accidentally reveal a plot point that, well, something that then will become later a plot point. So I'm not going to do that for this book this time. So yeah, let's see what happens with the third book. So, Lord of Shadows, would I read this again? Yes, I certainly would. I think what I'm going to have to do, because I mentioned this to my sister, that when I have finished the trilogy, I think I'm going to have to read the trilogy back to back. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but I think it was that thing, because I had gone from, obviously we're in December now, and I read Lady Midnight in January. It was quite a bit of time before I actually got round to reading the second book. So I was a bit like, oh god. So there were little bits and bobs that I had forgotten about. So I think if I read it as the trilogy in one block, it would flow much better. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do when next time that I read this. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I certainly would. But yeah, I would let them know that there are more kind of teenage tropes in this one, which are a little bit annoying, but I can understand where she's going with it, and that it has very dark elements at the end of the book. Would I read any more Cassandra Clare's books? Well, I've read like 13 of them so far. What do you think? It is going to happen. It is going to happen. Because yeah, after the third book, which is Queen of Air of Darkness, third book of this trilogy, sorry, I think there's a series of singular books, and then there's this new trilogy, which I think only one has been published so far. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But then I might have that wrong too. I can't remember this. As I said, I'm behind the times on Cassandra Clare's books. But I'm still enjoying them. But I'm just kind of like, as I said, if you're going into this kind of more adult approach, adult, deeper, darker writing and treating your characters like adults, you need to tone down the teenage tropes and let everyone see the adult world that you're trying to depict. That's what I would say. So those are my thoughts on Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Oh, it's been interesting, but I don't know what's going to happen with the next one. So what was I going to say? Yes. So, sorry, my brain just went completely blank there for 2 seconds. So that was Lord of Shadows. If you read this book, I'd love to know what you think. You leave a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Entirely up to you. I'll let you decide. And I will be back with my thoughts on the next book I am reading, which is one I borrowed from my mum, and that is The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. The first volume of La Belle Sauvage series. So there are 2 of the books published so far. I think it's a trilogy from what I recall from various discussions with my mum, and this one apparently it's, well, the whole point this series is kind of learning what Lyra has gone on to do, but I am aware from discussions with my mum that this is actually, this particular volume is a prequel of learning how Lyra actually got to Oxford in the first place as a baby. So I'm very intrigued. So yeah, I absolutely love his Dark Materials. The second series is on TV at the moment, and I have reviewed the 3 books on this channel previously, and I'm really excited to get into this. So yeah, I'll be back as soon as I can with a review of The Book of Dust. All right then guys, bye.